Guys, Brian here for Yes You Can Play Guitar, and I want to do a bit of a different video today. I want to explain to everyone why I prefer being a YouTube guitarist as opposed to playing in a band. Now, let me preface this by saying, in my professional career, I haven't played live in a number of years by choice. I'll get into that in the video. I have had a lot of wonderful experiences. I've met some wonderful people, wonderful musicians. I've played at some wonderful venues, and I've had some very good paying gigs in my time. The other day, I saw a post by Mike from The Art of Guitar. I like Mike's channel. Mike posted a comment that he got on his channel on a recent video. The guy was just saying, look, you must think it's easy sitting on your YouTube channel and putting down guitar players who become successful the old-fashioned way, the real way. I've also recently seen a video from Bradley Hall from his channel where he talks about why internet guitar players are so hated. Now, first and foremost, I want you guys to also know that Mike from The Art of Guitar, he's got 790,000 subscribers. That's a pretty successful YouTube channel. Bradley Hall has 375,000 subscribers. Very successful in his own right. Mike's always been a classy guy. I've never seen him be disparaging, or he's always seems to be polite, giving his opinions on things. There's a lot of good content on his channel, which is why he's very successful. Bradley Hall, he has some very good information. He's very entertaining. I have to admit, I don't always get his sense of humor.
On no account concerned with their cocknism.
But that's probably more on my end than his end. But nonetheless, he's also a wicked guitar player. So sometimes a lot of people have so many misconceptions about the music business. A while ago, when I started my channel, I'm gonna say probably a year and a half ago, I did a video called Why I Hate Playing Bands. A little bit was tongue-in-cheek, but you might want to go back and watch that as well. Those old videos are hard for me to watch with the lighting and the production and everything. It is what it is, but there's some valid points that some people agreed with, why I don't like playing in bands. Why do I prefer being a YouTube guitarist over playing in a band? The first thing I'm going to tell people that YouTube is hard. I've had friends come to me and say, hey, I'd like to get into YouTube. And I tell them point blank, it's very tough. You got to be willing to put in the work. I've had a number of musician friends who have YouTube channels, very talented people. Sometimes they'll complain to me about not getting views or subscribers, but they're not consistent. They're not posting every week, and they're not trying to find their niche, find their people, improve their videos. There's a lot of things that go into it, but YouTube is hard. I would tell anybody going into it, for the first year, don't expect anything and put in your work and just be quiet and try and make your product better and better and learn as much as you can about recording, lighting, audio, have good content. So my hat's off to anyone who is successful on YouTube, and also my hat's off to anyone who's successful playing in a band. So I'm gonna really make this as simple as I can for people out there who might look down upon YouTube guitar players, think YouTube is easy, or they think that only the old-fashioned way of being successful counts. When you were in school, have you ever done a group project but felt you were the only one doing all the work? Have you ever been on a team, despite being a really good player, but maybe the rest of the team weren't so good, and you got tired of losing all the time? Playing in a band is like a relationship. For anybody who's gone out with somebody, we all know how it works. You start dating someone, and if they like you, they're going to put their best foot forward and be so amazing. But then once things get going, sometimes things can change, and you go, wow, like this isn't the person that they pretended to be in the beginning. And wow, they had ulterior motives, or, and then you look back and go, why did I get into that or give that person my time? The same thing happens in bands. So when you're in a band, you're rolling the dice because it is a relationship. I've done other videos about bands, chemistry in bands, that you can look back and see on my YouTube channel. I will do a pros and cons of each. YouTube, I'm on my schedule. I'm in my studio. I work when I want to work. I work as much as I want to work. If I have a few days off, no problem. When you're in a band, especially as you're getting older, when you're younger, you're not in serious relationships, or you don't have kids, or maybe the work responsibilities with your job. When you're a teenager in your early 20s, you can spend all your time with those people in your band and just sit, make music, hang out, do whatever. But life changes as you get older, and as you get older too, you have less and less time for that. So even at my age, trying to budget the time to go out and play with people is very difficult, especially when you also have to do it around their schedules as well. With YouTube, I don't have to deal with that. When you're traveling, when you're gigging, for me as a regional musician, I had some long drives and some very late evenings. Usually, back in the day when I played, we were done playing at 2 in the morning. If we had a good night of packing up and loading out, we'd be out in an hour, but still sometimes it'd be a 1, 2, 3 hour drive back home. So, you know, in the morning you're doing all those goofy things you do to try and keep yourself awake in the morning when you're trying to get home. One of the reasons I stopped playing live for part of my living was because I started to not feel well. You know, when I was in my 20s, when I would come home from a gig, if I get home at 5 or 6 in the morning, you know, you can bounce back pretty quick. But as I progressed into my 30s, I noticed that, wow, you know, it's taken me, I need a few more days to kind of get back into the rhythm of the week. As I kept getting older, it started taking longer and longer to bounce back from those late nights and the really messed up sleeping. With YouTube, I don't have to deal with that. You know, and back when I was performing live, you know, 10 plus years ago, the price of gas was a lot different than it is now. And I'm sure that the clubs aren't paying any better than what they were back in those days. With YouTube, I don't have to deal with that. YouTube has given back to me in ways that I did not expect. I've had a lot of positive feedback on my channel, which completely outweighs the negative, the very small amount of negative feedback I've had. And also YouTube has opened up doors for me that, you know, I've met some of my favorite guitar players. I've got to meet them and talk to them and interview them on my channel. I don't know if that would have been possible if I was just playing in a band. It's something that I really, really appreciate. Another thing too, I remember one time I had a pretty good paying country gig. It was actually a country cover band that was popular, and I was playing at the A clubs. I was getting paid decently. You know, like most gigs, it wasn't perfect. There was some BS going on in that band as well, which I had to tolerate, but at the same time, I remember one time being out on the road for a long weekend with this band, and I got an email from a metal band, and they were like, dude, we saw this and that, or we heard of you, and you're the shredding metal guy. We just, you know, we have this new album. We're going to tour across Canada. We need a lead guitar player. Can you do this? And I'm like, they were in their early 20s, and I was already in my early 30s, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm getting paid. Is it the most ideal music for me to play? No, but I'm getting paid. I can eat. I'm getting my bills paid. I really didn't want to go through traveling across Canada, make no money, lose money, and basically sharing a bag of chips for dinner with, you know, 3 or 4 guys 10 years younger than me. With YouTube, I don't have to deal with that. Again, guys, I don't want to sound negative, but, you know, people will take what you give them. I can give you some examples of some things that happened to me in bands that I did not appreciate. Mind you, my communication skills are much better now. I'll give you a few examples of why I just don't want to play in a band, and I just don't want to deal with other people. One time, played in a cover band, and we had a member, he was a bass player singer, and he was okay, but he always complained about money, and so did his wife. And it was one of those things sometimes when you would email him and you got a response, you're like, you didn't know if it was from him or not. And anyway, there was some drama in this band, and I remember getting a much, much better offer to play in a much better band, much better gigs, much better pay. There's no comparison. And I did the right thing, gave my notice, and I took that gig. When I left that band, the bass player's wife sent me this long email ripping me apart on a personal level, and I'm looking at it going, you know, I wasn't perfect, but you know, I covered a lot of costs for this guy that he didn't know about when it came to our posters, booking gigs, and I drove him everywhere and never asked him for a penny of money for gas. But boy, how quickly things are forgotten. I'll just keep it real and interject here that I also, for a few weekends, let them use a lot of my PA gear that was part of their PA. They used it. They didn't offer me any money or even a thank you for using it. And they, in the dead of winter, they put the equipment someplace outside for me to have to go and get. That was my thanks. When people say, what are the downsides of playing in a band? You know what? If I sign up to play in a band, I'm playing with that person. I didn't sign up to play with their partner. With YouTube, I don't have to deal with that. When you're playing in a band, it's a lot of work, especially if you're providing your own PA system. For the people out there that don't understand what that is, well, when you play, you got your drums, you got your amplifiers for your instruments. But if your own PA or public address system, it's the sound system that the singer sings through and the whole band is mic'd up, mixed, and the sound is sent out of. When you have your own PA system, you can book a lot more work, do a lot more events, and if you're a band out to gig and make money, you're going to make more money if you have your own PA system. And lighting. You always need to have a bit of lighting for your live show. When you're in a band and you provide that, it's a lot of work. When you're in a band with someone who just doesn't care, they're showing up late, that's a classic trick to, do less work. I've been in bands with people like that. They show up late, they don't care, they don't really care how they're dressed, they don't help out as much, you're doing twice as much work, and then at the end of the night they have their hand out for money, and all they do is complain about something. They don't jump in and say, hey man, what can we do to make this better? What can we do to make more money? How can we work together at this? I've been there. It's not a good feeling. With YouTube, I don't have to deal with that. I'll give you another band I played in very briefly. When you're in a band, you're taking on the other people's problems. If you're playing in a band with someone who has a money problem, and I've been there, I know what that's like, someone who has a drinking or drug problem, it's inherently going to affect you. One band I played with, I was kind enough to provide the sound and the lighting system. Now, normally when you play in a band and you're providing the sound and lighting, you take a little extra off the top. But I tried to be nice. I didn't charge the band anything. But one of the things I assumed was that I'd be given help when it came to loading in, setting up, and loading everything back out. I did not understand that the drummer and the singer both had a very serious drinking problem, and it came out when we were playing live. It's not a nice feeling. I don't care what you have to do, but perform good on stage and don't make me look bad. At the end of the night, they were hammered, drunk, and they hopped in a cab and took off and didn't help me. And I remember thinking, these guys are kind of lucky to have me as a guitar player, plus my thousands of dollars of production equipment. I was there wrapping cables and packing my road cases. It took me about 3 hours all by myself to load out my equipment and go home. I did that for 2 gigs and then I was done. But of course, I was the bad guy. With YouTube, I don't have to deal with that. YouTube, I developed a Patreon community. And my Patreon community, I remember when I started my YouTube channel, a lot of people have reservations with YouTube. They're like, what about negative comments? It'll hurt me. YouTube's negative, the things that people say. I was in a bad place in my life when I started my YouTube channel. My place in my life was getting better. I met an amazing woman. I was shown true unconditional love with no hidden agendas. And things were getting better in my life. I'd been through a number of, let's just say, interesting times for a number of years before that. But I was at a place where I was very secluded from people. I didn't want to deal with people, didn't like people. But then I started meeting all these wonderful people who supported my channel from around the world, and a lot of whom became Patreons. And I would sit there and go, wow, like this person in England doesn't even know me, but they like me and my product enough to donate, even if it's a couple of dollars a month. I could never, ever put into words how much I appreciate and love my Patreons for the fact that getting their support helps me in so many ways. I could never, ever thank them enough. If I didn't have my YouTube channel and I was playing in a band, I don't think I would have that. You guys are starting to see playing in a band, for people that are successful in a band, my hat's off to them. Times have also changed in bands. It's hard to make a living. It's hard to make the money you used to be able to. A lot of the bigger bands, they're on tour all the time because playing live and selling merchandise, it's the only way they can really make money. The sad thing is, as a musician, I miss it. I do miss playing live. It's in your blood once you're a musician. It can go dormant for a few years, but it'll always be there. But at the same time, I'm very hesitant to ever even do something just for fun because I just don't want to deal with other people's BS. It's something I've seen, again, I'm not trying to portray this as a negative thing, but when I saw that comment towards Mike, hey, don't pick on Mike. Mike's a good guy. He's just playing his guitar, playing his Charvel, and just preaching the word of music and love of music to everyone out there. Mike's got nothing to prove to you. He's already successful with his YouTube channel. I don't know if people out there think that you just film a couple of videos and you're set for life or what the deal is, but that is not the way it is. If you look at Mike's channel from The Art of Guitar, I think he's been doing his channel for 10 years and he's been very consistent every week. I could not put into words how much work YouTube really is. And when I see someone who's successful, whether I like their content or not, I'm happy for them. That is just a small insight, my friends, as to why I personally would not want to play in a band. I can still have my rock and roll dream. Who knows? Maybe down the road, I'll get a big call from a bigger band to fill in for a gig or two. That would be amazing for me. Do I want to go out and drop everything I'm doing and just join a band completely? Not gonna do it. So anyway, guys, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, comment below. So remember, guys, practice hard, practice smart, no excuses, and we'll see you soon.